are finishing up our Silent Night trilogy by R.L. Stine. The best thing I can say about this book is the formula changed just slightly. It was still all about killing Reva Dalby, but it wasn't a copy and paste the way that Silent Night 2 was with Silent Night. However, Reva still hasn't changed. It's just the law of writing. It is common sense that your characters have to evolve. There needs to be some sort of character arc. So, okay, I'll give R.L. Stine grace when it comes to the first one. So maybe it doesn't look like she has any character development. Maybe she's a little bit of character development, and then going into Silent Night 2, okay, she's backslid a little. But she literally has no character development in the entire novel. There are maybe one or two moments when she can see outside of herself, but then she has the same moments that she'd had in the first book, and then the way the second book ends is exactly the way that we pick up in this book as we had previously. So she learned nothing from her harrowing experience in the first novel, except that in some senses she has a little bit of PTSD. So I could understand how the character development could be small. But then over the course of the 3 novels, Stine is going to have her character arc. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This book starts, continues, and ends just like its predecessors. And all we can assume or hope for is that this time it actually sticks. So I guess I'd had it wrong in the second novel. I thought that the first novel was her senior year of high school, and then the second novel would have been her first year of college. It seems like this novel was her first year of college, and considering that these take place over 3 consecutive Christmases, it's not like we're picking up 6 months later with each novel. She has come home from the, I'm guessing, prestigious Smith College, and she has decided to bring her roommate Grace home with her. You could fool me. Ooh, what is that? I'm a little tail, guys. I'm alfalfa. I have no idea why she would bring her roommate home with her, because she doesn't seem to like her roommate. At this point, I'm already set up for disappointment because it's a plot device. The only reason that Grace has come home with Reva is because we need something to happen. We need something to go wrong. We need something to mess up Reva's Christmas. Stine couldn't be a little bit more creative. He couldn't have been more inventive, more nuanced. Maybe she does actually like her roommate. Maybe she's changed enough that she's not so self-centered and that she does at least like one person. Because for Reva to live with another person, I mean, that's gonna have to take a whole lot out of her, and she's gonna have to give a whole lot and accept a whole lot. Maybe we just have one character that Reva has deemed worthy. Oh no, apparently her roommate Grace has a stalker of an ex-boyfriend named Rory. For some reason, I don't think Grace feels comfortable going home. So Reva invites her to come home with her. However, by the time that they pull up at Reva's house in the very first chapter, she's already regretting her decision, and she is thinking back to the one moment where she could have lied and told Grace that she was going to Aspen on a ski trip, and she should have just stuck to that and gotten out of bringing Grace home. Well, Grace is the ultimate drama queen. If there's ever a drama queen, it was Grace. None of Stine's characters in this trilogy have any sort of depth or development from book 1 to book 2. So I can't expect anything more in book 3. We get over and over and over Grace freaking out because Rory has found her, or more to the point, Rory has gotten Reva's number. This is like 1996. This is mid-90s. They might have had caller ID, but Reva, after all the goings on in the first 2 books, her dad has beefed up security. They have caller ID. Heck, in the last book, they had FBI on the case watching their house and tracing these calls. I'm pretty sure that the house would be unlisted. So my sister, my parents and my sister love Hallmark movies. They love Lifetime movies. They love all that crappy, sappy stuff. And the other day, one of those movies was on, and I was just like, none of this makes sense. If you think about it, none of this makes sense. And my sister turns, I think she just gets annoyed with me because I'm so cynical about it. But the writers who write these Lifetime movies are just terrible, okay? Like, let's get a little inventive here. Anyways, and she's like, that's your problem. You thought about it. And I'm like, but how can you not? How can you watch that scene and it not occur to you that it doesn't make sense? Bottom line is, she's like, you are thinking too much about it. I'm probably just thinking too much about this novel. But the thing is, how can Grace be on a phone call with her stalker ex-boyfriend and nobody knew the phone even rang? And why is Grace answering the phone? If the phone did ring, Reva might register it. But then, apparently, when Reva's home, nobody can answer the phone except for Reva. So, if the phone did ring, Reva would have noticed. So, why wouldn't she have noticed that it stopped ringing? So then why would Grace also, like the first day she's there, why would she take liberties in someone else's house and be like, I'm gonna answer the phone? Oh, like, okay, maybe that was so long ago and I was young enough that I didn't understand that yes, you can answer somebody else's house phone. We just get a lot of that. There comes a point where it's just nonsensical. Like, it does not make sense as to how Rory, because Grace was freaking out about, well, Rory already has called here and he's going to find me and he's going to get here. And Reva explains all these security measures they have. Yet Grace is convinced that Rory is going to get past 4 guard dogs, which I'm pretty sure are Doberman Pinschers, actual guards, although there is a moment where I was like, seriously? Like, again, this doesn't make sense. How, and like, how is he going to get past the gates? How is he going to get past all of this just to get Grace? It doesn't make sense. And that's when I wish I was like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old girl again, reading this and see how much it scared me. But it was actually quite boring. Anyways, so yes, we have Grace being this drama queen, 100% sure that Rory is going to come and get her. We have Reva working at her dad's store again because this dad, we actually saw him parent in this book. It didn't last long, but we actually saw him parent. But yet again, he thinks it's a good idea to work at his department store. It's not enough that 2 years in a row, there have been threats on her life because she's working at this department store. Anyways, before she gets to work, we see her cousin Pam, who has shown up once again. Cousin Pam is too poor to go to college. So to earn money, she's gotten a job at an insurance company and she has made friends with this girl named Willow. Together, they have sort of started this design business. Willow and Pam want to have their stuff sold in Dalby's department store. Pam says, I'm gonna call Reva because as horrible as she might be, she's got great taste. And if she can vouch for us, her dad will put our stuff in his store. She calls Reva up and Reva says, sure, come over. They show up and Reva's left. Like, she's still a really easy person to hate, which is the only good thing that Stein does in these novels. But it's so cliched and stereotypical that it gets old and frustrating. Then they come the next day without her knowing. And so she comes home and they're there. She is surprised at how much she likes these scarves. I'm a little confused as to how much of the construction they actually do. Because it sounds to me like they basically cut a bolt of fabric, they hem the ends, and then they screen print something onto these scarves. I have no idea what constructing clothes or accessories is like. Maybe it's difficult, but it doesn't sound like they're using much skill here. Anyways, she recognizes the value of this product. She's like, but I can't let them know there's value in this product. How can I make this as difficult for them as possible? We start with her being like, I'm gonna go show it to my dad. She does. She comes back and she says he didn't like them, and so they're all disappointed. She's like, but he loved them. And then she revealed that she pitched these as Reva wear, and that she was the designer. Now they're gonna have a fashion show 3 times a day. Pam and Willow are incensed. More so Willow than Pam, because Pam is no backbone whatsoever. Again, Reva is somebody who you're supposed to hate. And R.L. Stine does a great job in making you hate her, but there's no real motivation. The initial motivation from the first book was, I lost my mom, therefore I closed myself off to anybody who could hurt me again. Where's that excuse now? Because she supposedly worked through that issue in the first novel. Now she's just a straight up witch. What happens is she has to get models. And so here is our first hurdle, in which her dad says you can have 3. And then he pulls her aside and he's like, actually, you can only hire 2 from the modeling agency because we have a girl contracted to our department store. Reva and this girl don't get along because, yet again, Reva tried to steal somebody's boyfriend and this girl didn't like it. Let's just agree to disagree and not make things worse for each other, and we'll just get through it. We have these 3 models: Tracy, who's the one she doesn't get along with, Liza, and Ellie. We also have this super minor character named Daniel, who's supposed to be something of a red herring, who Reva slightly dated in college, but she quickly grew tired of him, and he randomly shows up in Shadyside, which is where she's from. He's staying with somebody, we never know who it is, but he shows up at her house. And this is that thing that I was mentioning earlier where the security guard knocks on the door and he's like, hey, this guy says he knows you. And then there pops up Daniel. I'm like, so you didn't leave him at the gate? Like, you let him through when you have no proof that he's not a psycho killer? So maybe Rory could actually get past these guards. Reva is like, no, I don't know him. And this leads to Daniel getting arrested. And then all of a sudden, Daniel reappears at her department store, or like her dad's department store. And I think he gets a job there or something. And I'm like, how are all these people getting jobs when it seems like her dad relies on her in order to hire help? What was the point of Daniel? He just eventually just disappeared. So it really was not Stine's best work. Along this route of getting these fashion shows started, she basically has Willow and Pam as indentured servants trying to whip up as many scarves and whatnot as possible because she foresees these things selling like hotcakes. And then she also meets Liza's boyfriend, Grant. And what do we think is going to happen with Grant? Absolutely, you're right. Reva tries to steal him. And actually, she sort of does steal him. But then Liza turns up dead. Reva finds her amongst all the mannequins. It's pretty gruesome, actually, which is really where Stine's strength lies. She's impaled upon like a mannequin stand, and she has one of the scarves wrapped around her neck. Now Liza is not a problem, and Grant is feeling really guilty because he was cheating on Liza with Reva, and I still do not understand how Reva gets these guys when nobody can stand her. So actually, Tracy shows up dead first, and then Liza comes up dead. So Tracy is found impaled on a mannequin stand with the scarf. They're going to have their first show, and her dad is like, nothing can happen at this show. If something happens at this show, this whole Reva wear thing is donezo. Like, I'm not putting up with it. Apparently Liza hadn't shown up. I had started to skim at this point, so maybe I missed it where she was like, where's Liza? But she comes out, she's introducing things, kind of stalling for time. And then she sees amongst the row of mannequins showcasing scarves and whatnot, a mannequin that doesn't quite look right. And she's like, it's Liza! You know, like, with her microphone and everything. I was like, way to create a stampede there, Reva. Now, Reva is like, what is Reva like? There's nothing really different about Reva. She still wants to have her fashion show. However, Pam and Willow, am I recording? Yes, I am. Phew. Pam and Willow have finally decided to take matters into their own hands and have gone to her dad. So this is the one point ever that he decides to be a parent. He's like, I'm really disappointed in you. Why would you lie to me? And of course she's like, oh, but Daddy, I just didn't know how to tell you the truth. And then, you know, he melts like butter. Michael, her brother, who Stein had been smart enough to disappear in the second novel, is back in this novel. And apparently he's still really affected by all the events that have happened to Reva. He enacts like kind of violent scenarios, like he's a ninja and he's, you know, like he's attacking people and he has like a fake knife, and anyways, he's back and he's a pest. Grace is still having these moments. Reva walks in. For some reason, she picks up the phone while Grace is on it, and she doesn't hear Rory. She hears like a weather update, which for those of you who are too young for that, you could dial a number and it would give you the local weather. Prior to this was when I thought it was silly because we would be with Grace. So we're in her head, ergo we should see the things she sees, hear the things that she hears, and know the thoughts she thinks. She's on the phone with Rory, arguing with Rory, pleading with Rory, only to never hear Rory. I didn't think it was a good idea to put us in Grace's head, arguing with Rory on the phone when Rory never actually appears. So it's not even like he's a voice in her head that we're hearing. It's just her arguing with herself, and it was really disjointed, and I don't know how these books got published, except that he's R.L. Stein, and just like all the other great authors, he can get away with crap writing when he produces crap writing. Reva hears that Grace is not talking to anybody. So she calls Grace's mom, and her mom is like, oh, how's she doing? I haven't heard from her. Reva asks her about Rory. She's like, Rory is still stalking her, and her mom is like, oh my gosh, not that again. And she explains to Reva that Rory's dead. Grace had accidentally killed him. We don't know how. We know that it wasn't intentional, but yeah, she was at fault for his death. And that she apparently was undergoing a psychotic break and was supposed to be on medication for it, but she had obviously stopped taking her medication or something, because the entire time that Reva has known her, Grace has complained about Rory. Again, baseless, foundationless writing here. Lack of plotting and lack of development. So now Reva is like, okay. She puts the phone down, and who is in her doorway except Grace? So the mom is like, I'm gonna get in touch with the doctor. We're gonna straighten this out. Grace is in the doorway. Reva is like, I know that Rory's not real, and Grace is, it's like she's sort of sensible, but sort of not. And so she admits to killing Liza and Tracy. This is where it just doesn't make sense. You would think she'd be undergoing some psychosis, where it's like she thinks that Rory killed them, even though she actually killed them. But she somehow becomes sane enough to say, I wanted to take things away from you because all you do is take things away from others. By killing the models, this enables Reva to feel the pain of not getting what she wants. This came out of left field. We can assume Reva wasn't that nice to Grace in their time as roommates, but we don't actually know what she's done to Grace to make Grace feel this way. Yes, Grace has observed the way that Reva treats Pam and Willow. Grace has observed, probably, or inferred what Reva has done with Grant behind Liza's back. But we don't actually have any factual basis for why Grace thinks that Reva needs things taken away from her. There is no great build-up from when they first met to now. It's just all of a sudden, you're a terrible person and I wanted to take away something you cared about. Grace tries to use a scarf to murder Reva, only for Michael to come in at the very last second thinking that they're playing a game and interrupts things, allows Reva to turn the tables on Grace and get saved from her. So now we're like, oh, all right. Reva has one more shot at this fashion show. One track mind, right? I think she's like in a room with Pam. She's doing something with somebody, or maybe no, I think we're in Pam's perspective. Pam starts hearing noises and she thinks it's Reva. She goes and she interrupts someone murdering Reva. And it turns out to be, spoiler, Grant, because you thought it was the end with Grace, but Grace is not the only murderer. So Stein, he really threw a wrench in that mix, you know? Turns out that Grant had the wrong girl because Ellie looked just like Reva. Same coloring, same hair, all that stuff. He doesn't actually kill her, by the way. He just severely wounds her. Like, if he kept going, he would have strangled her. Apparently, Grant had a psychotic break because he felt so guilty about cheating on Liza, and then Liza dies, that he's like, Reva needs to pay for what she's done, which all of these people have it right. Reva needs to pay for what she's done. She needs some repercussions for her actions, but she had repercussions for her actions in the first two novels. Do you think anything's gonna change this time? No. He is overpowering Pam, he's overpowering Reva. They, again, manage to overpower him, and then he gets hauled off to jail. Reva Ware turns out to do very well, just as she'd expected. Although now at the end we learn it is now like Pam and Willow Designs or something. And I guess everything's hunky-dory. Except we know it's not hunky-dory. We know that Reva, if we continue to have a Silent Night series, Reva would have reverted back to herself. That's where we end. Michael, after seeing that his sister actually was being choked to death, decides, hey, maybe I don't want to play these games anymore. We're just gonna pretend that Reva learned her lesson and will become a better person. You know, this is just another case of disillusionment where the things that I loved in my childhood cannot withstand the test of time. I would love to know your thoughts on R.L. Stein, and yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. So, there we go. Have a great Christmas.